going to keep reading the Book of Three. We're on to Chapter 7, The Trap. From the corridor, a faint sound grew louder. Taran hastened to press his ear against the slot in the portal. He heard the heavy tread of marching feet, the rattle of weapons. He straightened and stood with his back to the wall. The girl had betrayed him. He cast about for some means to defend himself, for he was determined they would not take him easily. For the sake of having something in his hands, Taran picked up dirty straw and held it, ready to fling. It was a pitiable defense, and he wished desperately for Gwydion's power to set it ablaze. The footsteps continued. He feared then that they would enter the other cell. He breathed a sigh of relief when they did not stop, but faded away towards what he imagined was the far end of the corridor. Perhaps the guard was just being changed. He turned away, certain Elenway would not be back, and furious with her for her false promises. She was a rattle-brained fool who would undoubtedly giggle and take it as a great joke when the Cauldron-born came for him. He buried his face in his hands. He could hear her chatter even now. Taran started up. The voice he heard was real. "Must you always sit on the wrong stone?" it said. "You're too heavy to lift." Taran jumped up and hurriedly cleared the straw away. The flagstone was raised, and the light from the golden ball was dim now, but enough for him to see that Elenway looked pleased with herself. "Your companion is free," she whispered, "and I took Mellingar from the stable. They are hidden in the woods outside the castle. It's all done now," Elenway said gleefully. "They're waiting for you. So, if you get a move on and stop looking like you've forgotten your own name, we can go and meet them." "Did you find weapons?" Taran asked. "Well, no. I didn't even have a chance to look," Elenway said. "Really," she added, "you can't expect me to do everything, can you?" "Go first," she said. "Then I'll come down." "Oh, Elenway." Elenway held the glowing sphere close to the stone floor. "Go first," she said. "Then I'll come down after, so I can put the stone back in place. Then, when Ashran sends to have you killed, there won't be any trace at all. She'll think you disappeared into thin air. It will make it all the more vexing. I know it isn't nice to vex people on purpose. It's like handing them a toad. But this is much too good to miss, and I may never have another chance at it. Ashran will know you let us escape." "No, she won't," she said, "because she'll think I'm still locked up. If she doesn't know I can get out, she can't know I was here. But it's very thoughtful of you to say that. It shows a kind heart, and I think that's so much more important than being clever." While Elenway continued to chatter away, Taran lowered himself into the narrow opening. The passage was low, he discovered, and he was obliged to crouch almost on hands and knees. Elenway moved the stone back into place and then began to lead the way. The glowing sphere showed the walls of hard-packed earth. As Taran hunched along, other galleries opened up on either side. "Be sure you follow me," Elenway called. "Don't go into any of those. Some of them branch off and don't go anywhere at all. You'd get lost, and that would be a useless thing to do if you're trying to escape." The girl moved so quickly that Taran had difficulty keeping up with her. Twice he stumbled over loose stones in the passageway, clutched at the ground, and pitched forward. The little light ahead bobbed, while the long fingers of darkness grasped his heels. He could understand why Ashran's forest was called the Spiral Castle. The narrow, stifling galleries turned endlessly, and he could not be sure whether they were making real progress or whether the tunnel was merely doubling back on itself. The earthen ceiling trembled with racing footsteps. "We're just below the guard's room," Elenway whispered. "Something's happening up there. Ashran doesn't usually turn out the guard in the middle of the night. They must have gone to the cells. There was a lot of commotion before you came. Surely they know we're gone." "You must be a very important assistant pigkeeper," Elenway said with a small laugh. "Ashran wouldn't go to all that trouble unless—" "Hurry," Taran urged. "If she puts the guard around the castle, we'll never get out." "I wish you'd stop worrying," Elenway said. "You sound as if you're having your toes twisted. Ashran can set out all the guards she wants. She doesn't know where the mouth of the tunnel is. And it's hidden so well an owl couldn't see it. After all, you don't think I'd march you out the front gate, do you?" Despite her chattering, Elenway kept a rapid pace. Taran bent close to the ground, moving half by touch. Keeping his eyes on the faint glow, he skidded past sharp turns, and fetched up against rough walls, skinned his knees, and then had to move twice as fast to regain the ground he'd lost. At another bend in the passageway, Elenway's light wavered and dropped out of sight. In the moment of darkness, Taran lost his footing as the ground rose steeply on one side. He fell and rolled, and before he could recover his balance, he was sliding rapidly downward in a shower of loose stones and earth. He collided with an outcropping of rock and rolled again, and then dropped suddenly into darkness. He landed heavily on flat stones, his legs twisted under him. Terran climbed painfully to his feet and shook his head clear of it. Suddenly he realized he was standing upright. Ellenway and her light could not be seen. He called as loudly as you dared. A few minutes after he heard scraping above him, and a faint reflection of the gold ball. "Where are you?" called the girl. Her voice seemed distant. "Oh, I see. Part of the tunnel's given way. You must have slept into a crevice." "It's not a crevice. I've fallen all the way down into something, and it's deep. Can't you put your light into it? I've got to get up again." "Yes." There were more scraping noises. Ellenway said, "You have gotten yourself into this mess. The ground's all broken up here, and there's a big stone like a shelf over your head. How did you even manage to do that?" "I don't know," Terran replied, "but I certainly didn't do it on purpose." "It's strange," Ellenway said. "This wasn't here when I came through the first time. All that trampling must have jarred something loose. It's hard to say. I don't think these tunnels are half as solid as they look. Neither's the castle, for that matter. Ashran's always complaining about things leaking and doors not closing right." "Do stop that prattling!" Terran cried and clasped his head. "I don't want to hear about leaks and doors. Show a light so I can climb out of here." "That's the trouble," the girl said. "I'm not quite sure you can. You see, that shelf of stone juts out so far and goes down so steeply. Can you manage to reach it?" Terran raised both of his hands and jumped as high as he could. He could find no handhold. From Ellenway's description, the massive shadow above, he feared the girl was right, and he could not reach the stone. Even if he could have, its sharp pitch downward would have made it impossible to climb. Terran groaned with despair. "Go on without me. Warn my companions the castle has been alerted." "And what are you going to do instead? You can't just sit here like a fly in a jug. It's not going to help matters at all." "It doesn't make any difference about me," Terran said. "You can find a rope and come back when things are safe." "Who knows when that will be? If Ashran sees me, there's no telling what might happen. And suppose I couldn't get back? You'd turn into a skeleton while you were waiting. I don't know how long it takes for people to turn into skeletons, though I imagine it would need some time, and you'd be worse off than before." "What else am I to do?" cried Terran. Ellenway's talk of skeletons made his blood run cold. He recalled then the sound of Gwyn the hunter's horn, and the memory of it filled him with grief and fear. He bowed his head and turned to face the rough wall. "That's very noble of you," said Ellenway, "but I don't think it's really necessary. Not yet, at any rate. If Ashran's warriors come out and start beating the woods, I hardly think your friend would stay around waiting. He'd go and hide and find you later, or so I would imagine. That would be the sensible thing to do. Of course, if he's an assistant pig keeper too, it's hard to guess how his mind would work." "He's not an assistant pig keeper," Terran said. Well, it's none of your business what he is." "That's not a very polite thing to say." "Well, nevertheless," Ellenway's voice dismissed the matter. "The main thing is to get you out. There's nothing we can do. I'm caught here, and locked up better than Ashran ever planned." "Don't say that. I could tear my robe and plait it into a cord. Though I'll tell you right away, I wouldn't enjoy crawling through the tunnels without any clothes on. I don't think it would be long enough or strong enough. I suppose I could cut off my hair, if I had a pair of shears, and add it in. No, that still wouldn't do. Would you please be quiet for a while and let me think? Wait, I'm going to drop my bottle down to you. Here, catch." The golden sphere hurtled over the ledge, and Terran caught it midair. "Now then, what's down there? Is it just a pit of some kind?" Terran raised the ball above his head. "Why, it's not a hole at all. It's a kind of chamber, and there's a tunnel here too. I can't see where it ends. It's big." Stones rattled behind him, and an instant later Ellenway dropped to the ground. Terran stared at her in disbelief. "You fool!" he shouted. "You addle-pated! What have you done? Now both of us are trapped, and you talk about sense. You haven't—" Ellenway smiled at him and waited until he ran out of breath. "Now," she said, "if you've quite finished, let me explain something very simple to you. If there's a tunnel, it goes someplace, and wherever it goes, there's a good chance it will be better than where we are now." "I didn't mean to call you names," Terran said. "But," he added sorrowfully, "there's no reason for you to put yourself in danger." There you go again, Ellenway said. I promised to help you escape, and that's what I'm doing. I understand about tunnels, and I shouldn't be surprised if this one followed the same direction as the one above. It doesn't have half as many galleries coming off of it, and besides, it's a lot more comfortable. Ellenway took the glowing sphere from Taryn's hand and stepped forward into the new passageway. Still doubtful, Taryn followed behind. And that is the end of chapter 7. Next time we'll read chapter 8, The Barrow. Hope you're enjoying the story. I will see you guys next time. Until then, stay happy and stay safe. Goodbye.